Hello and welcome to the New England Job Show, a show by job seekers for job seekers. On today's show, our guest feature is on the wide and varied and complex subject of the psychological aspects of losing your job. We have a panel here today. This will be followed by our elevator pitches from fellow job seekers, where we give them a chance to do that 30-second pitch, and hopefully someone out there is watching. And then we like to have happy news, a happy ending, so we have just that today, a happy ending. In the studio today we have Fred Nothnagel, our co-host and career consultant with 13 years of experience and hundreds of success stories coaching professionals to reach their career goals. We have Kathy Borrelli today with us. Kathy has over 25 years of experience as a counselor, educator, and consultant dealing with loss, change, and transition, both personally and within the business world. Kathy herself, unfortunately, has dealt with 3 layoffs in the past 4 years, so she's very well placed to talk about all of the emotions that go with that. And then we have Lee Sachs over there. Lee is a software engineer by profession with many years of experience, also unfortunately been laid off several times in the recent past. So 2 of our guests well placed to talk about this. Fred, how are we going to kick it off?
Well, I'm very pleased to have both of you with us today. Kathy, you come from the perspective of a professional who deals with issues like that for clients, and personal experience in having gone through this. And I'm wondering whether you might start us off by telling us what you believe are the major factors that go into the psychological aspects of losing one's job here. You've been through this, you've helped people.
Well, it's a huge subject.
It certainly is.
And there certainly are the classic stages of grief that are applied to job loss. And but I think bigger than that, one of the most important things that I've seen in talking to so many people, before we even get into the emotions, is what initially happens in regards to how we put so much emphasis on our identity being what it is we do in our job. And as a result of that, and that happens for a number of reasons. That doesn't just happen because of the fact we've lost a job. That happens for many of us now because we have spent so much time at work, 40 to 60 hours. So that's a lot of time of yourself. And so we forget about those other parts. For example, of being a father, being a mother, being a daughter, being a writer, being a hiker. Those are all expressions. A job is only an expression, one expression of who we are.
That sounds like a very good way to look at that. It reminds me, when I was out of work for about 8 months, I got a chance to spend a lot more time with my children as they were growing up than I had previously, and I have never regretted doing that. Lee, what would you have to say about this?
Well, a lot of your time is taken up by looking for the next position. So you don't get quite as much free time as you think you're going to get. And also, part of the problem of searching for a job is that you have to get yourself motivationally up for the job, for the search. One of the things I learned a long time ago was to suppress my anger about being let go, and just say, okay, you're a good person, you're going to move on, you're going to find that next position, and that next position will be better than the last position you had.
The anger, Lee, comes from why me? Why was I let go? Did I not perform well enough? Where does that anger come from, really?
Well, you wake up in the middle of the night, and I've heard this from other people, and you kind of sit back and you say, well, how come it was me? Why was it me? And then you have to actually put that aside and say, no, it really wasn't me. It was a business decision. The company had to keep going. The company had to save money. And it wasn't me. It was just that I happened to be in that position.
Right.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Couldn't have said it better. Do not take any of this personally, because there are so many factors that go into why a company lays off a certain group of people and not someone else. Very rarely has it anything to do with the individual's value in the marketplace.
So, Kathy, what are some of the other emotions then?
Well,
we were talking about this rush of emotion.
The important thing is, no, it's not about me, but the emotions I am feeling. See, that's the distinction. what happened, it might not be my fault, it probably was not your fault, but you're left with the emotions of the shock. You're left with having to explain it to your colleagues and to your family. You're left with the kind of plea bargaining, oh, if only I'd done this, maybe I could have done that. You're left with a sense of a lack of purpose for a while, because that was your purpose. Again, going back to that identification. So you have these emotions that are careening around inside of you while you're also taking the advice and listening to other individuals who have gone through the job search of keeping a positive attitude, etc. One of the things that I recommend is that certainly when you're out selling yourself or on a job interview, you need to be as positive as possible. I hear from so many individuals how exhausting that is if in fact the night before you didn't sleep, you were concerned about something, you were concerned about your self-esteem. Self-esteem and shame is a big part too, Ardita. And so what I recommend is that if you've bolstered yourself up for the day and you're just not feeling that wonderful at the end of the day or after the interview, do something good for yourself. Do something, don't forget the things that bring you your joy in your life.
Or I've heard this option, Fred, that you can always ask for your appointment to be rescheduled. Is that a good move or not? If
I
you're
would
not up
not
to it.
suggest doing that, actually. One of the key factors, it's never really in a job description, but one of the key factors for you to land the job is how interested you are in that job. These days, there are a lot of people interested in jobs, and if your interest level is below what it needs to be, you will not do well.
So you've got to put on a brave face and go in there.
You do. But you don't have to go in just when they want you to initially either. One of the key things to try to do is to schedule the interview at your convenience, when you have plenty of time to prepare yourself. Plenty of time to prepare yourself by doing the research, and also preparing yourself psychologically.
Lee, any thoughts on that?
I was going to say, with every interview that you take, you have to actually psych yourself up for that job. You have to go in, you have to look at the website of the company, you have to vision yourself, put yourself in that position that you want this job. Because if you come in with any less than that, you've lost.
Exactly.
So your mental approach is very important. Like you say, you've got to psych yourself up for it. Kathy, back to your list of the other sort of steps in the whole. You earlier on when we spoke, you likened it to death or loss of a family member, loss of a job. So there's the whole grief thing. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it is in the whole, it's called the Holmes and Ross scale, and it's number one. The loss of a job is number one, even over serious illness or the loss of a loved one. And that has shifted over the past 10 years. It didn't used to be that. I think that with all of these emotions is just to, I'm not necessarily going to say embrace, but acknowledge them. Don't try to push them away. Find a support network in which you can talk about them. Don't blame yourself. Don't think something is wrong. And most important, you're not alone.
And this is something we will keep on, Fred, stressing across these programs, is the need to get out, to network, to be with people, and not to sit at home alone, right?
Yes. And it does run counter, as I understand it, to the natural tendency of when someone is becoming even slightly clinically depressed to want to cocoon.
Right.
Well, you have to fight that and run counter to that so you bring yourself back up.
Lee, did you ever go through that phase where all you wanted to do was sit on the couch and just, not
every
move?
day? But
Me too.
you have to go out. You have to go out and really search for things that you want to do. I go to this WIND organization just because I go to help people. I'm not looking particularly for my job, but if I can elevate somebody to be and I hate to use the word excellent, to be excellent. And try to not suppress so much, you're going to have it in the back of your mind, but try to be as positive as you can.
Right. And I'm sure, Fred, you talk about this a lot in your networking meetings, the whole thing of giving of yourself, because, in some way it's going to come back to you. And so giving and sharing, and someone mentioned mentoring, there's so much you can do to put yourself out there.
There's a tremendous amount that anyone can do, whether they're working or not. But certainly when you are out of work, you do need to build up your own self-confidence and your self-esteem because it's really tough. Do it by volunteering. Do it by just plain being a better father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter, whatever it is, and it will come back to you right away.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, back to you again on your never-ending list I'm sure you have. We can't deal with it all today, but what other points would you like to bring up?
Well, I think it's just really important to look at, take an inventory of what it is you value in your life. Take an inventory of what you're passionate about. And no one is going to say, I haven't heard it yet, Fred, maybe you have. I haven't heard that there are a lot of individuals that are passionate about looking for work. Some people find it a interesting endeavor.
But interesting diversion when they're financially secure enough for a little while.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really think it's, and for myself, that whole self-assessment, because I was working 50 to 60 hours a week, I had forgotten those things. Mm-hmm. I had put my passions on hold.
Right.
And so I think it's a really kind of a self-assessment and reevaluating and really taking a hard look at what those are.
And then the other thing, Kathy and Fred, is the whole question of discipline or self-discipline or structure. Lee, you were saying you don't sleep well at night. I was saying I don't sleep and then I feel guilty about not waking up early as if I was going to work. So guilt and then discipline slipping away from you because you've been so used to doing the same thing at the same time.
I turn that around. When I don't get up, when I don't sleep at night, I get up and I get on the computer. And some things, sometimes I look for a job. Sometimes I try to connect with other people. This morning, I was on to a friend in California who is a classmate of mine. I said, I'm interested in working in your company. Can you tell me something about it? So that's part of doing it. You don't waste your time, thinking about, oh my God, I got to get a job. What's wrong with me? You've got to turn that time into being productive.
Right. And I think we've also talked about volunteering, just keeping yourself busy, but go out there, do stuff. Not only just, Fred, attending meetings like yours, but volunteering for, nonprofits or whatever,
there are
community work.
Many of nonprofits around, and their funding levels have gone down because of this economic problems. You can help them and help yourself at the same time.
Absolutely.
Great opportunities out there.
Right.
I want to get one word in about guilt, if I might. In my estimation, guilt is a useless emotion, particularly when you're talking about being in a situation like being out of work.
Which is beyond your control to some extent.
It's not useful in the least.
Right. Because you being unemployed is beyond your control. I mean,
Certainly.
It's not something you've done to deserve it. But So we're losing time here, but to sum it up, Kathy, there's this broad spectrum of emotions and feelings that are going on, right? How would you condense this whole picture? And I mean, basically, what do we tell people? Someone who's lost their job for the first time particularly, it may not get easier as you go along, but for a first-timer at least, how do you deal with this crisis?
Well, much of the time we talk about what security means, and that in these times now, the greatest security is letting go of that certainty that there is security. So when you can kind of turn that around and realize that it might not be a job that's your next job for 5 years, to kind of ride the waves, to fight against those waves is exhausting, and to just do the best you can and to look at possible ways that you can be your best, possibly at something else.
And also, I think out of the box, think of the bigger picture. Fred, in conclusion, what as a professional,
I want to pick up on what Kathy was just saying about giving up the illusion of security, the illusion of certainty about your job. It doesn't exist anymore. We're in a just-in-time employment market. The only security one has, really, is how marketable one is at any moment, not whether one happens to have a job or not.
Okay.
Keep yourself marketable and you won't have to worry about that, whether you have a job.
I'm afraid we've run out of time, but we definitely will come back to this topic over and over again. For now, thank you, Fred, thank you, Kathy and Lee, and our best wishes to you, and let's hope that dream job is out there.
Go for it.
Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richie.